I love that woman. All right. So, want to welcome everybody to what has now become kind of an annual um, meet and greet and also introduction to hiking in New Hampshire. My name is Janice May. I've been a hike leader for Hartford area hiking since for a long time, um, 15 years maybe. And my first trip to New Hampshire was actually 2009, and I didn't know anything. And some nice people dragged me up Mount Washington. And I said, I am never coming back here again. That was just silly. Went up Tuckerman's Ravine and thought I was going to die. So I got over that. So um, years later, I ended up as being a meetup leader, connecting with someone who had done half of the 4,000 footers and in New Hampshire and said, I think I'm going to do the rest of them. And myself and a handful of people kind of just trailed behind him. So it's like, what's this weekend's hike? It was just us accompanying him on his goals. Then, since there's 48 4,000 footers, you get to like 24, 27. You're like, I just have to finish these. So sometimes that does become the goal, the obsession. Sometimes you get a little list crazy. So I did finish all my 4,000 footers with the help of many, many wonderful people who said, "Sure, I'll go with you." Some of them didn't know any better and just came along. Some of them did know better and were super helpful. Yeah, poor Colleen, her very first trip to New Hampshire was like, want to hike a 4,000 footer? And she's like, I don't know what that means, but okay. And now she just finished her 4,000 footers in October. Um, I also finished the New England 67, which means you go to Vermont and New Hampshire and Maine and hike all 67 of those, um, which includes Katahdin and Mansfield and, all the big ones. Um, Getting pretty close to finishing my New England 100. I believe I'm on number 87 of 100. So we're going to spend some time in Vermont this summer. I'm going to try to finish my Vermont ones. And then that'll leave a big collection, not a big collection, but a handful still in Maine to go do. Um, won't happen this summer, but that's okay. One thing, I also am wilderness first aid trained. I am an AMC leader and also trainer for them. I'm a trainer for the Adirondack Club Connecticut chapter. I tell you all of this because my biggest fear is when folks go into a meetup group, they assume that because you have someone who's calling himself a leader, that they know what they're doing. The only requirement to be a leader on Meetup is pay the bill for the website. That's it. So I always caution people to really, really look over what the trip is, look over your abilities, look over your expectations, and do not ever hesitate to ask a leader for their resume. If they won't give you their resume, please don't hike with them out of state. Please don't. Even some of the things we do in state, unless you know the park you're going to or you have a map or something, don't risk it. Um, I've heard too many really, really bad stories. I've had to help with carry out rescues. I've had to, I've just been in situations where, and I don't mean that like begrudging, like I've been more than happy to help people, even though there is a twinge of bitterness when people make bad choices and endanger other people. They just took another person off Mount Washington who his poor choices endangered 11 other people that went and had to rescue him. So you just want to think about it and have a really good plan, have a contingency plan, have a backup plan. You got to have a plan. So I'm usually pretty good at that. If I am going to wander off in the wilderness and don't have a clue, I'll let you know that. But that'll be more for like local Connecticut hikes. And most of the stuff in Connecticut that we do for training for the New Hampshire hike, I've done multiple times. There's very few places in Connecticut that I haven't hiked. Um, So the last couple year goal has been to do new trails in similar parks. So, matter of fact, we did that last year on Mount Scottney in Vermont. We went up a different side. No, we had never gone up, and it was awesome. It was great. It was a great hiking trip. Same thing with Greylock in Massachusetts. We went up a different trail um, that turned out to be super fun, longer than had been planned. Not my fault. Um, we find that there's a little bit of a disconnect between what All Trail says, what maps read if you add up all the information, and when you're on the trails and you read the distance signs, they don't always match. So hopefully there's some times where I know what the real number is, despite what people are adding up. The Greylock thing on All Trails was 11 miles. It was closer to 14. Yeah, it was a long day, but it was awesome. We had a good day. So over the course of, matter of fact, starting this weekend, I have Ragged Mountain up. Um, and it's kind of like even folks who have been hibernating this winter, even though this winter was not bad at all. I mean, there was no snow to get all jacked up about. I was so disappointed. Um, but if you hibernate in the winter, this is kind of like Colleen likes to call it like couch to 4,000 footer thing. If you stick with it and you train for this, you can do these two mountains that I'm offering this summer. But it's going to take some time. You can't just get out of the car and and say, "Ooh, I'm going to go." I would prefer you train, but what I also do is if you get yourself on the list, then what I normally do is send out hikes with pretty detailed hike descriptions. So if my calendar doesn't match your calendar, or if it's an off weekend, like in 2 weeks, 3 weeks, I'm going to Maine, um, up near the Bigelows and stuff. So I won't have anything up that weekend. Or um, if it's just something where I'm, just don't have a hike up, I'll give you a list of like 8 or 10 things to go do on your own, um, with All Trails links and usually paper map links, which sometimes I used to all the time back in the day would always give people paper maps, and very happily people would uh, take my paper maps. And then what I realized after a couple of years is nobody knows how to read them. The pictures are pretty though. So I don't teach map skills right now, but I can get you up and down a 4,000 footer and give you some skills to do that. Um, so one thing that a lot of people complain about early on, I'll just say that early on, is when we get to the slide about the gear lift, I actually renamed it because people are like, what do you mean we've got to carry all this stuff? And basically, it's because you never know what you're going to get up there above tree line. I am pretty emphatic about checking the weather. I'm going to give you two different websites again in the presentation that you can use to track weather. So typically, if I'm headed to New Hampshire or Vermont or Maine, I'm watching the weather out 10 days and I'm trying to see what's happening. I use the Mount Washington Weather Observatory a ton. They're the best weather guys on the planet. And I'm just trying to see what the trends are, what's happening. Obviously, we've had a couple of a few really wet summers. So has made hiking up in New Hampshire pretty miserable. Um, I'll show you some video. And but the goal of that gear pack is um and I absolutely require it, is you have to be able to stay out overnight if ever an emergency happened. So if you were to get hurt or you needed to help out somebody who was hurt, you're going to need to be able to have enough gear. Also, the biggest mistake, anybody that participates in watching Northwood's Law, the all-time best TV show in the world, um, when the Rangers have to go out kind of to save people, it's mostly unpreparedness. So what ends up happening is the valley's 85 and sunny and it's awesome. They don't read the weather report. You get up above tree line and all of a sudden it's 32 degrees and snowing. we talking about Colleen and I, we've been on top of Liberty and Flume where it was warm in the valley and it was snowing on the summit, and that was July. So you just have to be prepared for everything, worst case scenario. So as a lot of people are starting off, you know, training or wanting to do these events, you know, that's the biggest complaint, but that's only just because you haven't carried any weight. So you have to carry weight to carry weight. So a lot of times on the trips, you'll probably see me carrying what looks like a ridiculous amount of stuff, but it's just trying to build up endurance. Hiking is an endurance sport. It's not a sprint sport. You're going to go out for 8, 9, 10 hours and just walk and carry weight. If you're up in the bigger mountains. So you just have to be prepared for that. Um, and again, you know, have the right gear in place. Let me see if I can make this work because this will be funny. So way back, we did this trip up on the presidentials, and it was a 3-day trip. And on day 2, we got this. There's Ed. Look how happy Ed is. Such a goober. Such a goober. And I think, hold on. Hey, let me go to this one. Ken, I think this is you. This is us on Mount Adams. Yeah, good day. So so the point is that sometimes you just don't know what you're going to encounter. Um, the other thing, and that was a few years ago. And then when Kathy and Colleen were finishing their 4,000 footers. So when we were up on top of Eisenhower, which is the goal for this year, we had this weather. That's a dig at our friend Ed, who finds this kind of weather amusing and fun. So you kind of don't know what you're going to encounter, and then that was our day on Eisenhower, but it was fun because we met a T-Rex. This guy was finishing his 4,000 footers and wore a T-Rex costume. You got to love him. And then on their very last 4,000 footer, this was our weather. So this was October, and it was sleeting and breezy and raining and. Okay. So I always show everybody these things, not to be like a, you know, Debbie Downer, but this is what happens when you're up there. This is what you get. So we just have to be prepared for it. And most important thing, we got to make sure we try out our gear before we go to use it. I have had people come to the trailhead taking things out of the plastic wrapper. Have you tried that out? Does it fit? Do you know how to use it? No. You want to always try your stuff out. So we'll make sure that we do that. So or at least the goal for this year, seeing as how the trip we had last year was not so awesome sauce. We're going to redo Eisenhower and Pierce. So in the first slide there that I'm showing you, this is what it looks like climbing up Mount Washington. This is the terrain on Washington. This is Kathy and I on going up on Lincoln on Franconia. And then this picture, this is a really cool diorama model that's at Pinkham Notch. This happens to be Eisenhower. And then the rest of this is Mount Washington. So this is the whole like presidential thing. And this is falling water on your way up to Lincoln. All right. But our goal is going to be this one. Come in. All right. So on a good day, this is what Eisenhower and Pierce look like. And in this first slide, this is the summit of Eisenhower where the guy in the T-Rex suit was. And if you look back, this up here, that's Mount Washington. So that's the view you get from Eisenhower, Washington, if you were climbing up. And then this next slide over here, this is Eisenhower, this is Washington. So um, the goal is, this slide 3 here. So the goal is, and then this is the map loop on here, is there's a road right across the street from the Highland Center for Crawford Path. And in the summertime, we can drive all the way up to what's called Edmonds Path. So this is the loop. So what we're going to do is meet, and then that's the link that I gave everybody, because I just put the hike up today, is we're going to park at Crawford Path parking area. It's a $5 fee to park there for the day. And then we'll see who shows up that day and head up the road 2.3 miles to the Edmonds parking lot to climb up Eisenhower, hang a right, summit Eisenhower, go down into the valley a little bit. I think the prominence is like 250 feet. So it's like 250 down, 250 back up, on top of Pierce. And then from Pierce, we can make a couple of choices. If everybody's feeling good, we're having a good day, and people have never seen maybe one of the high huts, we can hike down to Mizpah and take a break and eat a brownie and still get back to the car. Or, and that's actually on the trail, Mizpah huts over here. Or if everybody's like, I've had it, get me off this pile of rock, we can just head straight down Crawford Pass. So that's about a 3.5 mile walk from the top of Pierce back to the car. About 8 miles total, about 3,000 feet of climbing. And if you haven't climbed stuff, I totally understand that you don't know what that means until you have to do it. So like locally, if I'm thinking of like Chauncey Peak. So Chauncey Peak is 763 feet above sea level. And I think we climb up maybe 400 feet. So Mount Washington's 10 times that with the climb. So it, like I said, until you do it and until you start, if you don't have experience with this, until you start like doing more of the hikes and doing the bigger stuff and doing the steeper stuff and working your way up, it won't make sense to you. And that's fine. I totally get that. And maybe right now it's okay that you don't know what you don't know. Maybe that's okay. But it'll be steep. We'll be above tree line. Eisenhower is at 4,780 and Pierce is, I think, 43 and change. So I mean, they're up there. They're part of what's called the presidentials. So it's the big long line of mountains. It starts with Madison. It's Madison, Adams, Washington, Monroe, Eisenhower, Pierce, and then Jackson. So those are the 8 that are in the presidentials. And we're just going to kind of pop into the middle and do a couple and then come back down. So just to give folks just some locational information, the A dot there on the map is basically where we're going to be in New Hampshire. And then there's just a little bit more topographical map of New Hampshire. The big, just if anybody's ever vacation up here, the big water thing right here, that's Winnipesaukee. And then all the big mountains are up here. So they're up there. It's a drive. Like I know from my house, it's about 3.5, 4 hours to get up there. And I will also, for those of you who are kind of hanging in, I will give you the advice that taking Route 91 all the way up and then cutting over is much better, especially if you're going to come up on Friday. It seems like the closer you get to Boston, the further away you are because your GPS is like, no, you're never going to make it out of Boston. So your 3.5 hour drive could turn into 6. So we usually go up 91 and then cut across. We find it to be a little bit more efficient. It would be, unless you are some crazy, like, don't need sleep person. I always tell everybody you're coming up on Friday night. Usually I don't pull everybody together on Friday night because I don't have one place for everybody to stay. So, and we'll talk about lodging here in a minute. So it's more like I'll see you at the trailhead. I think I put it up for 6:30 on Saturday morning. Um, and then, basically it's the day. A lot of people will come up and make a weekend out of it and come up Friday and do the hike Saturday and stay over and then leave Sunday morning or do something else. And if that's something that interests you and you just need some advice on it, just let me know if you're interested in doing like a 52 with a view, or there's so many really great recovery hikes up there. Um, what's the cool one we always do, Bill? Black something near the Starlight. Black Black Cap.
Correct. Black Cat. Yep.
Black Cap. So there's some really great part. It's right near Cranmore ski area. So, anyways, there's a lot of really great stuff to do and hike up there if you wanted to make it a weekend. Even if you wanted to come up earlier and do some stuff, you can do that too. I threw this one in just because it kind of shows you the scope of where a lot of the big mountains are. And of course, they put Washington here right in the middle since it is at 6,288. It's our biggest mountain here on the East Coast. Um, but I will tell you, when people always ask, like if you go do way up here, and that's Katahdin, and everybody always asks, which was harder, Washington or Katahdin? Katahdin is 10,000 times harder than Washington. Um, just saying. But this just sort of gives you an idea of where things are. So for us, like down here, so Greylock is something that we will hike. Um, I don't know if we'll have time to go to Equinox, but Ascutney will hike. Um, over right here, Monadnock will be one of the hikes that I do. Um, probably just those are the ones that are closest that are down here with the big ones. All right. So lodging for the hike. The trailheads for these are literally right across the street from the Highlands Center. And the Highlands Center is one of the Appalachian Mountain Club's. It's not a hut, it's the lodge, but it's like the mothership. It's where everybody is. And it's a beautiful place. It's a fun place to stay. The only thing I caution you against is you have to give them 2 weeks warning if you're going to cancel to get a refund. If you do not cancel in 2 weeks, they will hold your money. Um, like they won't give you a refund, but they'll give you a credit. So if you think you're going to go back, you can apply it to something else. But if it goes beyond Columbus Day weekend, then you just lose it. I usually recommend, and especially if you're new to traveling up there, or it's just not your place to hang out, I usually recommend using a local hotel that has a better cancellation policy, like something 24-hour, something like that. And you can ask them, because the Highland Center, while it has great breakfast and dinner, because it's buffet, but it's $129 a night. Your bathroom is down the hall. It's like being in a dorm. Um, I believe, Ken, you would know better. It was over 200 a night to get a room with a private bath. I think I've never done it. Um, and you're like I said, you're sharing a bunk room, your bathroom's down the hallway for $129. But it's a cool place to stay if you want to just say that you did that. What usually happens is that people make new friendships, like going on this journey. It's like we all have this as a goal. We want to hike in New Hampshire. And then you end up, so if you feel like right now, like I have no friends, I don't know anybody, like who am I going to get a hotel room with? I wouldn't even stress about it right now. I really wouldn't. Because I was contemplating doing a high hut thing for this summer, but it's very complicated. You're locked in again if the weather's bad. So that's what happened to us in August. Poopiest weather ever. We had reservations at Lake of the Clouds. We went. That was that video that I showed you, one of the rainy videos. We were locked in. It was like lose your money or just go, and we went. Um, and it's a little more complicated. But like I said, if we were doing that, I would have already booked reservations that people could buy into. We're not going to do that. So even in this area, and I gave you a little Google map over here, if you click on the Google map for the hike, because the hike is up, um, and just zoom out and click on lodging, it's going to give you tons and tons of local choices. One thing that I do remind people about, though, if you are a big chain hotel person, you like the Hampton Inn, you like Holiday Inn, that's down in North Conway, but the room rates are very expensive. You can do better with some of the local people, or Airbnbs, or. So um, there's a lot of different options. And if if you decide to start coming on the training hikes, or you want to reach out and just ask me questions, I'll give you the lowdown. Like I've said, I've been going up there since 2009. So you drive around a lot. I usually rent Airbnbs. That's usually my thing. And people always ask, oh, do you go back to the same place? I've never rented the same one twice, because in this obsession to do the list, you stayed here one time, then we were here, then we were here, then we were here. So it didn't make sense. But I would say if you're anywhere within an hour from the trailhead, that's super reasonable, because that stretch on 302 through Crawford Notch, there's nothing. There is nothing. um you're going to have to go up to Twin Mountain. um and actually there's really 4 or 5 nice places in Twin Mountain. One craziest sounding place ever, it's called the Profile Deluxe. Awesome place, the people are really nice. It's across the street from a really good local restaurant too. um so you just have to search around a little bit for sure. And if you call them directly, like don't use bookings.com, don't use, because none of the local folks up there use those big servers. Just call them directly, get on the website and call them, and they're super accommodating and give you great information. All right. So here's my equipment list, which I've also now given a subtitle of Can You Survive Outside Overnight in an Emergency? So I'm giving you the why of this. Um, Again, you got to plan on being outside for anywhere from 8+ hours up there. So lots of water, and some type of refillable system. Um, Trying to think, and we're not going to come across any water to refill, so you got to bring what you need for the day. At least 2,000 calories of food, um because of how long you're going to be out there and moving. Full rain gear, rain pants, and a raincoat. um the reason that you wear rain pants is so if all you wear is just a raincoat and then it rains really, really hard, the water will run off the coat and run inside your boots. So you wear rain pants to keep the rain out of your boots. Someone would say, what if I wear gaiters? Doesn't really work. So that's the reason. Extra shirt, extra socks, is all that always feels better when you get to the top. If you have a more intense backpack, a pack cover, which you kind of saw in a couple of the videos, you could see we had on pack covers that were blowing in the wind. They're supposed to keep your pack dry. Again, not so much. And we'll probably talk over the months more about how to pack for this. Generally, we generally put everything in garbage bags inside the pack with a pack cover. Money and identification, headlamp, waterproof matches, compass, map of where we're going, whistle, extra socks and sock liners are together. Since it's going to be summertime, I would strongly recommend electrolytes and or salt replacements. If it ends up being warm and you sweat a lot, and you start cramping, that's not gonna be a fun day. So electrolytes. A minimal first aid kit. I usually carry a lot more stuff to like tape ankles and Benadryl, and I kind of carry a few more things up there. Um, but as long as you've got something for blisters, um, maybe like the bug stuff, afterbite, that kind of stuff. Sunglasses and sunblock for sure, because you're going to be above tree line. There'll be no shade. Um, Once we hit tree line, up Eisenhower, no shade. Then we're in the scruff. Then as we get down to Pierce, then we get a little bit of shade. If you have medications, for sure, a space blanket, a multi-tool, a pack towel or a bandana. I don't care if you don't like hiking poles, bring them. Get the kind that fold up and bring them. Couple of reasons. They save your knees and your hips going downhill. And hopefully, once you get into some of the bigger mountains that we train on, you'll see the joy of having them. Unless you have amazing quads and you can lower yourself all the time. I would say bring them. Um, Also could be helpful if you yourself get hurt, twist a knee, do something, we've got to splint you. Okay. A hat for sure, camera, watch, insect repellent, closed cell pad basically just means something to sit on the ground. You don't want to, even if it's a nice warm day, um, and you can even buy just a small piece of foam, like whatever's as big as your butt, and then fold it up and put it inside your pack, so it just keeps you insulated. Um, and then a hike safe card, which I'll talk about in the next slide. And then I say a pack big enough to carry it all. First question I always get: what size pack should I get? I would say lay all that stuff out on your dining room table and then you decide how big of a pack you want to carry. Um, I use a 48-liter pack when I'm in New Hampshire. My day packs are in Connecticut are like 32. Um, but that's because I'm pretty sure we're pretty close to the road. Um, but in New Hampshire, again, you got to carry all that stuff with you, and you probably need a little bit more space. So I usually tell folks, don't buy the pack first, buy the stuff, and then see how big of a pack you think you want to use. Um, that being said, if it isn't obvious, I have more than one backpack. So hike safe cards. Hike safe cards are New Hampshire's the only one that issues them. They are $25 for the year. You buy them through the New Hampshire Fish and Game Department. And if you go to their website, they actually now they have a tab. You used to have to dig for it, but now there's a tab that says Hike Safe Card. Basically, this is your insurance. Um, Anytime they have to go out and rescue somebody, there's always a written report. And if you have a Hike Safe card, they will help you happily. They will enlist a whole bunch of volunteers. In this area, it's the Pemigewasset Search and Rescue. They are all volunteers and they go in and help people who have hurt themselves. Um, and that $25 investment goes toward their programs, and it does some funding for Fish and Game. I show you two of my favorite Fish and Game officers, Officer Mike Mancini and Lieutenant Glenn, my space name, Glenn Lucas, and they're way up north. They're up where we're going to be. I have never met them, and I don't want to because I'm fearful that it'll be me laying on the ground and them looking down at me. So I don't have the desire to meet them. I just like watching them on TV. But um, if they do deem that you were a knucklehead and you created your own problems, you will be billed for the rescue. And probably the craziest one I heard about, and this happened about 12 years ago. Gentleman, shorts, t-shirt, one bottle of water, decides he's going to hike Washington, didn't check the weather report, didn't have a backpack, had a cell phone in his pocket. Started to rain. Everybody knew that it was going to rain. Um, and he slipped and broke his leg. He called on his cell phone and demanded a helicopter come pick him up off of not the summit, but he wasn't at the summit and he wasn't near the auto road, and they wanted him to be he wanted to be picked up. National Guard, those guys are badass. I've seen them fly in and pluck people off of some crazy places, but eventually the weather cleared enough because now he's hypothermic. He's got a broken leg. Um, they hiked down from the top to bundle him up, and he was serious enough that they did fly him out. That was a $19,000 helicopter ride. and he protested, and he tried to fight it and say, well, I didn't need that, you didn't, or he was just a big old jerk from Boston who did that, which was unfortunate. So if they deem that you weren't prepared to go, and they sometimes in the summertime at Appalachia, which is one of the northern parking areas to go up Mount Madison, they'll pack check you at the trailhead. AMC will. You can walk around it and be like, nope, I don't need to go. But sometimes people just stop to get some advice. But I've seen them also turn people away, like too late in the day, not the right gear, again, sneakers and a bottle of water, and we're gonna go hike Madison. So we just want to make sure that we're prepared. So I require that everybody has a hike safe card. The thing is that it is not from when you buy it a year out. It started January 1st and takes you through December 31st of each year. It's a calendar year. So if you're pretty serious about doing this, I would get online. And the thing is cool, you can print out 40 of them. I mean, they give you the PDF and then you can just print out as many as you need. I laminate a whole bunch of them. Um, ah, good suggestion, Ken. Thank you. Um, um, I print out a bunch and I put them in every backpack I have that I think I might take to New Hampshire, just in case. And I've never seen the process. I don't know when they're taping your broken leg, like when they're checking you for your hike safe card. I don't know when that happens in the process, but so that's going to be definitely a requirement. Ken just chimed in and said when I just said hat and some other things on the gear list, and I'll go back and edit it, but winter hat, winter gloves, waterproof anything is totally worth it. I have windproof, waterproof gloves I just got this winter that are awesome. So that's a great recommendation. Thank you for that. Weather places. These are the two places I go to. So one of them is mountainforecast.com, and you can type in the mountain you're going to go to, and it will give you 7 days out of what the weather is going to be. Or the Mount Washington Observatory, most awesome weather guys ever. And it's very cool because if you do get to go there during the Seek the Peak thing, which is, well, I'll talk about in a minute, which is the weekend we're going to be there. Sometimes you can sign up for tours and they'll take you through the weather station and show you what's going on. But this is what I'm using more than a week out to try to see what trends are, what's coming in, because we're sort of throwing a dart at the wall. We're just picking a date, like, okay, July 20th. I'll tell you why it's July 20th. But we hope for the best. We plan for the worst, and then we see how it goes. Like I said, we've gone up there on some trips where the weather's been hellacious and we bailed, and we've had other trips that we've done some stuff in really, really bad weather. And I would only recommend that to people with experience. I would never have someone, it's like, this is my first year going to New Hampshire. I would never, ever, ever say, you should come with us. It's going to sleet on the top in July, So I wouldn't want anybody to go up and do anything they don't feel comfortable with. All right. So just to give you some idea, these are some hiking trails, what it looks like above tree line. So the picture on the left, this is the summit of Jefferson. Obviously that's a whole lot of granite. The one next to it is myself and Tony Mack going over some rock scrambles up Caps Ridge for Jefferson also. And then this is the trail if you were to go down heading toward Mount Washington and heading back across the ridge. So one of the things that I always make sure that people don't do is use the word easy, like, oh, this is easy, or where is it easier, or where is it I think we kind of get confused about mileage, and mileage in Connecticut versus mileage in New Hampshire are not even the same measuring tool. This is the conditions in New Hampshire. So it's not uncommon to to have it take an hour to walk a mile. Most of the hikes that I lead in Connecticut, generally we do 30-minute miles. And you're probably not even aware of it. So we're walking at 2 miles an hour. And that's not running. That's not like some crazy pace. It's just walking at a good clip without stopping a lot. But these are the conditions that you're going to run into. So again, a lot of the um, probably June, beginning of July hikes, we're going to try to go further north so you kind of get this kind of experience with these kind of conditions. Um, but you just want to be careful because, matter of fact, on the day that these pictures were taken, our lovely friend Tony said, "Oh, we're going over to Washington. Well, it's only a mile and a half." And I just nodded at him. I'm like, "Yep, it's only a mile and a half." Him thinking we're going to be there where we were supposed to be in an hour and a half, and I think it took us 2.5 hours to get there. So we don't want to curse the day by calling those distances only. It's only a mile, you know. So every year, the Mount Washington Observatory runs an event called Seek the Peak, and it used to be back in the day only a hike of Mount Washington, and it was kind of crazy because if you didn't start at like 6 in the morning, it became this weird conga line going up there. So then COVID happened, and now you can hike any day, and you can celebrate whatever you want to do. But if you want to be a part of it, not required for what we're doing, but if you feel like I want to donate, I think the observatory is great. I know we have one friend who she actually goes and volunteers up there in the summertime on the summit. She stays up there for a week, and cooks meals for the staff, and you can do it any of the four seasons. It's kind of a cool deal. I haven't done it yet. I'm looking into it. But what Seek the Peak does is they are raising money because a couple of facts you may not know. The Mount Washington Observatory, the weather station, is privately funded. Um, Also, the auto road that you drive up is owned by a family. It's not a state park. And the cog railway up the other side is owned by a family. So they're all technically small businesses, um, and they fund themselves. So there's parts of it that are part of the White Mountain National Forest. Those elements are not. So Seek the Peak, I supported it for many, many years, and the minimum buy-in now is, well, I mean, you can give them $20 if you want to, but I always like to do the minimum where you got swag. Now it's become $300. And for $300, you get a really cool t-shirt. So I have a lot of them, and a backpack, and the backpack has stuff in it. Um, and I stopped doing it a couple of years ago. No, no reason or that I stopped or anything, because I still love the organization and I'm a member, and I do donate, but I just don't donate to this um specifically during this time. But they do put up big tents at the bottom of the auto road on Saturday the 24th, and there's vendors, and I think now you can buy dinner. So over in Meredith, there is a restaurant called Heart's Turkey Farm, and they basically put out Thanksgiving turkey dinner. And so if you participated in the Seek the Peak thing, your name goes in for drawings for more swag, and you have dinner. But now they've sort of opened it up so there's more of like a vendor thing. Here's the only problem. So Mount Washington's a big thing like this. We're going to be over here, like on this side of the mountain. The event is on the auto road, which is over here. So it's like 2 hours away. Um, I haven't taken people up from that side of the mountain in many, many years. We used to always go to Pinkham Notch, always climb Tuckerman's Ravine, which is a really cool waterfall. But one thing that switched me up one year was, even in July, they had Tuckerman's Ravine closed because there was too much snow in July, and the snow that was there was dangerous because They would, if people went in and it collapsed, then they would drown in the waterfall. So sometimes they close Pinkham Notch. So instead of it being sketchy, we just said, we'll just go to the other side of the hill. Um, but Seek the Peak is something you can definitely look into if it interests you. Not required. This is a list of some of the hikes that I will do for the training and that I also have write-ups for. So and it'll take us a week or two to get the list together. But if people want to be a part of those hikes and you can't make my dates, I haven't set the summer calendar yet, so I don't have everything sketched out as far as what weekend I'm doing what. And of course, weather's, if it's going
We
to
haven't had
rain,
one yet.
then we have to change that. The other thing that I would do too is I would get yourself a White Mountain Guide, if it interests you. If you are a AMC member, you can buy it through the website. You can also buy it at Barnes and Noble. But what I do recommend, it comes with maps. So if that just interests you and you're like a map geek like I am, it's very cool. But the maps that are in the box are just paper maps. So I had to get a second set that were Tyvek so that they're waterproof, so that they don't dissolve on the trail. But I would recommend that. The other map I'm showing over here, this is specifically Mount Washington, but it does show the area that we have. I have these in a waterproof version for $4 a piece if anybody wants to purchase them. That's what I pay for them. The gentleman photographer who makes these he's from Lincoln, New Hampshire. Mountain Wanderer bookstore in Lincoln also sells them. I have many because I bought a whole bunch from him a few years ago. So it gives you all kinds of cool information about the presidentials, specifically Washington, but it does show over here like more of the traversy stuff. So just if you're a map geek and you want one, you just have to reach out to me and I can send one to you. Or if you see me at an event, I'll start carrying them with me again. So the 4,000 footers in New Hampshire, this is just kind of a snapshot of what they look like and where they are. So this is our goal over here. This is Eisenhower and Pierce, these dudes over here. But this is everybody, including Cabot and Wambeck way down here, Musalaki way over here. And then it gives you the enlarged version of where all these big mountains are in New Hampshire.
Losing range,
Okay.
probably gonna.
So,
They're
all right, whoever's got their not on mute, please mute. All right, so that's what I've got for all of my info. As far as what the trip is. If anybody wants to ask a question, please do. If you'd like to. I'm trying to see. No, that's not what I want to see. I don't want to see that. And I know I've seen things pop up where people are like, yep, put me on the list for the summer. For the summer series, that's totally fine. If at any time you decide you're like, nah, I don't need to know about this, just let me know so I don't keep you on the list. But like I said, Ragged Mountain starts this weekend. Next weekend, I haven't decided where I have to hike on Sunday, not Saturday. It'll be something local, something medium. I don't know. Kettletown keeps coming into my brain, but I haven't decided yet. The weekend after that, I'm going to Maine. And then I think after that, most likely that in April. Oh, I already know April. The first weekend in April is going to be Mount Frizzell, Round Mound, Frizzell, and what do we call that thing? Brace Mountain. And that's only because a handful of us are camping at the Northwest Cabin in Salisbury, which is another AMC property. So I'll have that up. And then after that, I haven't figured it out yet. But if anybody wanted to unmic, if you have a question you can think of, that's groovy. I went to put something in the chat. Now I can't see everybody's chat. So I can't see chat. Probably Colin can't. So I don't know if anybody has anything you want to ask, concerned about, want to know the real deal on.
Yes, I have a question. I apologize. I wasn't able to actually get the Wi-Fi, so I ended up logging in 20 minutes late.
It's okay.
Is is everything, the PowerPoint presentation, is that accessible for us, for me to go back and look at it?
Yep. What I'm gonna do is when we're done, I give it gets a YouTube address and I'll put it up as a separate event. I'm gonna put it up for July 19th, which is the day before the hike. So it'll go up like it's an event. Nobody has to sign up for it. It'll just be the link to watch the whole PowerPoint. It'll be the YouTube link for what I'm recording right now. Anybody else? Anybody? Fran, you have your hand up.
Yeah,
I
hi.
love that feature. It's so funny.
Thanks for the presentation. It was great. I've hiked in California a lot, but it's more rolling hills, gradual incline, not rocky.
Switchbacks.
Yeah, a lot of
Love
that.
switchbacks.
So for these training hikes, what do you require or suggest we bring along?
So I would say at the beginning, whatever you're comfortable with for day hikes, food, water. I'm always a big fan of waterproof boots. I would, when we start off, we're, 5, 6, 7 miles. I kind of cater to folks that really, really want to do it, but maybe haven't been doing stuff for the winter. So it's kind of a slow start. And yeah, most of the stuff, Connecticut's not too bad. Connecticut's built in some nice trails that can be gradual. There's something about those New Hampshire people. They're just like that. Whatever's the least common, the easiest path is a straight line. So everything is a straight line up, really big stuff. I remember doing, they have an awesome program called August Camp. And every year they go out west. And when you go out, I got to do 5 of them. Like we went to Canadian Rockies, we did Olympic National Park, we went to Bend. Where else did we go? Rainier, cool stuff. But the New Hampshire hike leaders were like, what is up with this? Like, why are we switching back? We're doing like 8 extra miles and switchbacks. Why isn't it like home where we just go straight up, So a lot of the Connecticut stuff is, everybody will kind of work their way up to, crappy trap rock terrain and, loose, uneven, uncomfortable stuff. But no, we'll start off cute and nice at the beginning, but you're only going to be out there for 4 hours, I would say. So anybody else have anything interesting they want to add or ask about? And again, if you think of something, if you think of something later, also just send me a message. I don't know. When you put up a question on the thing, it's fine. It just goes out to everybody. So don't ask me anything weird unless you send me a private message. Unless you think everybody would benefit from your question. I did post the hike today for July 20th. So some of this information is repeated in that post. And here's the difference is when I post that stuff, people laugh. I guarantee within the next 6 weeks, there'll be 57 people signed up to do this hike. 5 will show up. So it's just the nature of the beast. I don't put a limit on it. I'm just like, sure, sign up. So, see how your life goes. And if you decide you want to do it. But many people don't. And if it's even an inkling of not great weather, then we're down to what was the deal last year, Colleen, that we had like 5, 8 showed up, maybe. I don't know. But it was a rainy, crappy weekend. I don't blame them.
Yeah. And then a couple years ago, this couple you took up hadn't done any of our training hikes with us, but they had done your entire list preparing, remember?
Yep, on their own. Yep.
And they did well, right?
Yep, they did really well. Yeah, when we did Cannon Mountain. I was on another one of my selfish pursuits where I needed on the 100 list this thing called I needed one of the cannon balls. So I'm like, all right, who wants to go up Cannon? But you got to walk over to this thing over here, and then we'll come back down. Yeah, younger folks had done all the hikes on their own, and they were awesome. They were also like 24. I mean, come on, you know. They were puppies. They were puppies. I know. I love this hand up thing. This is so cute. Robin, did you have a question?
Oh, yeah. Hi, Dennis. I have any for brand water protectors?
You're kind of breaking up a little bit, so I'm having a hard time hearing your question.
I'll type it in.
Oh. Robin, it sounds like you fell over. Recommendations, waterproof hiking boots. Okay. So my advice about hiking boots is I like Solomon. I've been wearing those for a while. But I think people's feet, you know, everybody fits differently. Like there's some boots that I just don't find comfortable. So if you go to REI, the closest one to me is in West Hartford, and you literally say to the salespeople there, because they don't work on commission, I need, you know, I'm a size whatever. All right, no problem, Mark. And if you say I'm looking for waterproof hiking boots, and I'm this size, can you bring me what you've got? I mean, it's kind of like if anybody's a runner and you go to Fleet Feet in West Hartford, they'll bring you out every brand if you want to try them on to see which fit your feet better. And that's a big difference. My only advice though is, especially for, and I'm not picky about it anymore, because I used to be really hard edged about everybody's got to have higher boots that go above your ankle. That's just how it is. Well, then you get so many people that are into trail running and they just like lower boots. So I'd rather have you have comfortable feet, but I would say waterproof boots are pretty important. My number one pick the brand is Solomon, either men's or women's. I've worn both men's and women's. But I know there's a lot of good brands out there. So I would just say I would go to REI and just try on everything you can. I do recommend those sock liners and socks. Like I always wear wool socks with sock liners. It prevents blistering, and the sock liners absorb your foot perspiration. So that's my advice. But I always wear high boots too. I don't wear low anything. They say high boots have saved me from ankle injuries so many times that I usually don't wear the short ones.
Janice, there's
Anybody?
another question in the chat from Murray. His audio is screwed up, but he can hear us. What's the pack weight that all the stuff you recommend and pack weigh?
Probably 20 pounds. 20 to 25 with water. So you got to figure a gallon of water weighs 8 pounds. So I'm goofy enough that I carry a ton of water. I don't like to be thirsty. But like I said, I'm pretty positive we are not going to come upon water on this hike. Like there's going to be nowhere to filter water. If we decide to divert and go to Mizpah Hut, we can absolutely fill up water there but then we got 3.5 miles left on the way out. But I think most people have told me that their packs have been no more than 20 pounds. But keep in mind too, when you hold up a pack like this, it feels horrible. And then when you put it on your back, then it feels better. Um, and remember too, when you're using this type of equipment, you want to carry the weight on your hips, not your shoulders. So you cinch the heck out of your waist belt, and then the weight shouldn't be riding on your shoulders at all. And I know I'm notorious for, seeing people on the hikes, and I'm like, come here, and I'm adjusting people's packs so they fit better, um, or fit, you know, a little more correctly. But yeah, you carry your packs with your waist, not your shoulders. So once you put a pack on, the weight isn't as obnoxious as it feels when you just pick it up like this. And you can start carrying stuff. I know, Bev, I know you're on the call. You and I both this fall we were wearing winter boots and big packs for winter hiking, because if you when you carry stuff for the winter, like again, it was testing stuff out to make sure what kind of weight you were carrying. So don't feel goofy. I have a desire to do some backpacking this summer. So you may see me show up with a 65-liter backpack full of stuff, just because I want to see what I can and can't carry right now and what do I need to work up to. So yeah. So actually interesting thing that you just said. Again, she's done a lot of the hikes on my list. You're not cheating on me if you go hike with somebody else. Just saying. So the AMC does have a meetup site with some good stuff on it. And then Bill Rule's Connecticut chapter of the Adirondack Club. They have spectacular people that lead for them. I work for them and I do training and stuff. I just never put hikes up with them, because like all my people are on Hartford area hiking. But if they put up something that you've never been to, or it sounds really good, or like they have a leader who's been with them for about a year, named his name's Ben. Ben always does stuff that's like 10 miles. And the wording makes it sound like they're going to leave you to die in the woods. They don't, but they just want to discourage the people that would show up flops with a water bottle. But Ben does great long distance stuff. So if you're already like, this is your stuff, Adirondack Club Connecticut chapter has great stuff. And then if you're feeling brave, you could go with the Litchfield Explorers, but just make sure you know where you're going, because they do not stop. So and they're very, very fast. So, and then that might be something, if you're not familiar with them, that you build up to. But again, what this is all about right now is building up endurance to be able to be out in the woods for 8, 9, 10 hours and feel comfortable. You don't want anybody wheezing and horrible and not enjoy the day, because that's the whole point of us getting up there, is having these amazing views. So if you're kind of passed out because you're tired, it might not be a fun day. So I'm trying to just prep people so it's a fun day. I mean, you want to have a good experience up there. Anybody else? Got anything?
Hey,
What you got? There it is. Okay, there it is. I closed down my thing. That's why I couldn't see it. Pack weight, that's funny, Murray. Yeah. So, if you didn't think of anything else, like I said, when I close out the call, I'll make a YouTube connection with it, and I'll just put it up as a separate event, and then people can check it out. Or if going through the list, I mean, at least that way you can pause it. So if you want to look at my hike list or the gear list or things like that, you can certainly do that. Okay. And I'm not going to close out the call. So if you guys are done, if you don't have other questions, just go ahead and sign off. I very much appreciate your time tonight to come and hear what I have to say, and hopefully I'll get to connect with everybody over the next couple of months. I'm usually full of all kinds of useless hiking information on the trail, so we will chat more about this for sure. All right. So I appreciate everybody's time.